Old games have always fascinated me, especially the old horror or the old adventure games. Not because they are better than the new one, but I do admit that in some cases that might be true. But I digress. The reason why these old games fascinated me so much is the atmosphere of the environments in these games. The Tower in Monster Hunter, Silent Hill Town in Silent Hill franchise, or the Forbidden Land in Shadow of the Colossus. They all have such a foreboding and mysterious and creepy vibe to them that the newer games don't have, even if they try to achieve the same atmosphere as the old games. The best example of this is the Shadow of the Colossus remake. The remake itself is phenomenal, don't get me wrong. The graphic that Blue Point game achieves in this remake is insane. Shadow of Colossus had never been this realistic before. But to achieve too much realism, they sacrificed the unique art style that the original game has. They are both amazing in their own way, but nothing beats the art style and atmosphere of the original game still. Well, at least in my personal opinion. And I think the reason why old games have such a fascinating atmosphere is because of the graphics. There's just something about the old game graphics that try to achieve realism but can't quite there yet. That is so uncanny and weird, but that is also why they are so captivating. They are saying that Ghost art style transcends graphics, and I tend to believe that. In this video, I will take you to 3 locations of these 3 old games, and we will try to figure out the reason why these locations are so fascinating together. But before we jump into the first location, if you like this video so far, please like and subscribe to my channel so I can continue to make this video for all of you. So without further ado, let's talk about the first location. This is a tower from Monster Hunter, an ancient building that reaches above the ground, and many powerful monsters call this place their home. Who built this tower? Why did they build it? When did they build it? Nobody knows, and that is why it is so captivating. The old graphics texture combined with the mystery of the tower make it one of, if not the most unique location in the Monster Hunter series. Monster Hunter as a series rarely has any horror elements in the environment. There might be occasional monster skulls or skeletons here and there in some areas, but the tower is different. With its foreboding and isolated atmosphere, there's thick fog enveloping the general area of the tower. There are ancient monoliths and archways, crumbling staircases and floors, and massive tree roots that penetrate the wall of the building. All of these elements give the tower this eerie and unnerving atmosphere that no other place in the first generation of Monster Hunter has. And even if the 6th generation of Monster Hunter, which is Monster Hunter Rise that just recently announced, brings back the tower or a similar looking location, it wouldn't feel the same as the tower, but I do want to see them attempt to bring it back still.
In my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill.
This is Silent Hill Town from Silent Hill 2 specifically. The reason why I choose Silent Hill Town from the second game of the series is that I am familiar with Silent Hill 2 the most compared to the other games of the series, and Silent Hill 2 is the more beloved and well-known installment out of them all. That's why it's the best choice to use in this video. So, what is it that makes Silent Hill Town so fascinating? Just like the tower from Monster Hunter, Silent Hill Town also has a mysterious air around it. One is a crumbling ancient building that reaches above the cloud. Another one is an abandoned town that is filled with thick fog. Both of the locations are man-made, but ended up being abandoned by the makers from some mysterious causes. And we as a player just happen to arrive at the time when these locations are at their most desolate condition. But unlike the tower from Monster Hunter, where the horror of the tower itself is mainly come from the atmosphere only, Silent Hill 2 took this desolated and isolated theme and atmosphere of the town to another level. Since Silent Hill 2 is a horror game, they can go more in depth on the horror aspect of the town by adding scary and unnerving looking monsters that roam every street of the town, and the fact that these monsters come from our protagonist James Sunderland's consciousness, his fear, his guilt, his desire, all combine to create this monster, only amplifying the horror of the town itself. It's as if the town itself is alive and able to pick apart James' insecurity, fear, and guilt to create, for lack of a better word, his own personal hell. Throughout the game, the town will shift and change based on James' current predicament, even at some point communicate with him through writing on the wall, shaming him for what he did. The old graphic of the game itself also helps with enhancing the isolated and dreamlike atmosphere of the town as well. I cannot wait to see what they could do to the town of Silent Hill when the remake finally comes out. I'm not expecting it to be bad or better than the original, but it's going to be a different kind of Silent Hill, that's for sure. This is a forbidden land from Shadow of the Colossus. An ancient land consisted of multiple dilapidated temples and buildings, vast open plains, large deserts, and thick forests. 16 colossi slumber here in this mysterious land, and our protagonist took it upon himself a mission to slay these colossi, for Domin, a mysterious voice in the sky, to revive his companion. But unbeknownst to him, Domin is only using him for his own gain. Forbidden Land is quite unique from the other two examples that we talk about, because the Forbidden Land is not inherently scary at all. It's more peaceful and quiet compared to the Tower and Silent Hill Town. In fact, the Forbidden Land has no enemies. The colossi will only try to fight the player only when provoked or their territory has been invaded. But even then, outside of the colossi themselves, there are literally no enemies to find in this place. Empty and hollow vast expanses of land with bits and pieces of bygone civilization combined with an old game graphics, that is the Forbidden Land. It's quiet in its atmosphere, but loud in its art style and presentation. When back in 2005 when Shadow of Colossus was released, you can see that it is among of, if not the most visually striking games of its time. The art style of the game is so unique and timeless that even now, 18 years have passed, the Forbidden Land is still one of, if not the best looking location in video game history. The remake that Shadow of the Colossus got back in 2018 is also phenomenal as well, no complaint here. But as I said before, the original game art style is just way too unique and timeless that it cannot be replicated. So the Blue Point game developers went with a different art style instead, which is a more realistic and true to life art style, and it works splendidly for them. But as I said before, one of the most important aspects that make the Forbidden Land so captivating is the unique art style of an old PlayStation 2 era graphic, but the remake lost that unique charm of the original. All of these locations have 4 things in common. First, they are all man-made structures. Second, all of them have been abandoned by the people who built them and are also in such a desolate state that they cannot be lived in. Third, all of them are from old games that are 15 plus years old. Therefore, these locations have a pretty unique low polygon texture. Lastly, and probably the most important factor, is the mystery behind these locations. Who built them? Why build them? What is the reason for their abandonment? Who lived here before the player arrived? By letting the player question these things in their mind, it already succeeded in making the player invested in the location and the history of it. Therefore, these locations have already fascinated the player. Older games will always have an edge over the newest game in creating an uncanny and foreboding atmosphere with their unique low fidelity texture graphic. Compared to the new games where most of them try so hard to achieve realism to the point that they are willing to sacrifice or don't even consider or care about the art style at all in the first place. And that also comes with a cost of everything looking the same. This is particularly prevalent in the AAA shooting games. Whenever I saw those games, the only word that came to my mind was boredom. Everything looked the same, uninspired, and just generic. But that doesn't mean all modern games are like this. Some of them look incredibly realistic, while also managing to put their unique art style into the game, such as Elden Ring, where the graphic is very good and realistic, but the game also have this brush painting look to it, which is not only beautiful, but also fascinating. The Tower, Silent Hill Town, and Forbidden Land all have such a unique art style from their own games that not only gave us the players the feeling of wonder, uneasy, foreboding, and of course, fascination feeling, but also gave us these timeless and iconic locations in video game history that will be remembered and loved for generations and generations to come. And remember, art style transcends graphics.